Seems like every day is always the same now. Going through the motions, how about you? Though I got no reasons, I can't complain now. For the comfort we gain, it's the chaos we lose.
Great big red clip of the week, Chris. I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous.
What's even better yet is 3D's Grace is like one of my favorite bands at the time. Right now, I'm just on a 3D's Grace cringe just all the time, all day long. So beautiful canola field.
We're gonna get a copyright strike again. When I heard it, I was like, I think that's a song, but that's okay, whatever. It's not like we're all of the topics we have on this show, they keep taking our monetization away anyways. I mean, so it doesn't really matter. Great clip though, Chris.
We got good listeners, so that's all that matters. We don't need the money, just good listeners. And we have a sponsor now, really. Right?
That's right. So hello and welcome everybody to episode 40.
I want to say it's 41. Of course, Tamara has to
brought to you by.
Am
I good?
Yeah, you froze up for a minute. Episode, what was it again?
42.
42. Nice. Uh-oh.
Sponsoring our show with their #1 coffee, Mischief Makers. Who is this named after, Chris?
Mischief Maker? Yeah, I think it has something to do with us, doesn't it? I want to take a little responsibility for this.
Yeah. Our friends at Resistance Coffee Company serve premium coffee. They are a family-run business with strong Canadian and they've helped so many people in our community. And so thank you so much to them. Got my Resistance, my fancy coffee cup. So thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, I need one of those.
Yeah, I have an extra one. So hopefully
awesome.
I think my internet should be doing okay, but maybe I got stuff in the way. If I keep freezing up, I might have to just run up and move my modem around. Just let me know. So yeah, it is. Hi, Gary. It is hard to believe. The time is not slowing down. As a matter of fact, I did the numbers again today, and we are 317 days into our sentence, or 45 weeks. We have 6 weeks and 6 days of house arrest left remaining until October the 6th. And then our actual sentences will be served. Mine will be up January 21st. I've got 22 weeks left to go before this is all over for me. Chris didn't get to go to jail like I did, so he's got an extra 10 weeks. So he'll be hanging on with curfew until I think April 7th, 32 weeks, I think it is. Yeah. So, yeah, crazy.
And your week was good? I've been out trucking my tail off here. It's just been busy. I don't know why. It's just insane. My phone rings every 30 minutes for another load, and I'm not complaining about that. That's a damn good problem to have. But it's just a lot of trucking. So I had troubles with the signal light today and yesterday. I was home the other day, and I tried to fix it. And, of course, as soon as I pulled the truck in the shop, it worked. And I did the same thing again today. It wasn't working when I was on the highway, and I'm like, I'm going to go home. It's always better when I do the podcast when I'm in the office here, and then I'm going to fix that light, and I pulled the truck in the shop, and it's working again. So I'm just going to go tear it all apart. It is National DOT Blitz Week next week across North America. So apparently Swift Current will be the hot spot, so I'm going to be everywhere but Swift Current, just so everybody knows.
Well, yeah, I just want to remind you that your first condition is to keep the peace and be of good behavior. So make sure your brake lights, your tail lights, your headlights, and everything that moves and switches and knobs is working.
I don't have any rocks in the back of my trailer. I had a little incident with a gentleman yesterday in Regina, Saskatchewan that decided to get in front of me, and I kind of wondered what was going on. And when he threw his brake lights on and his four-ways on and did a brake check on me on the highway, apparently a rock fell off my trailer somewhere and smashed his windshield. Got a ding, but the way he acted about it was very unprofessional. And I do a lot of gravel farm deliveries, and there's going to be rocks underneath the suspension of my truck and trailer, and I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry, but the deck of my trailer is clean, and I clean all the rocks off everywhere else every time I stop. So road hazard, be a little more courteous about it. Somebody could have got hurt yesterday with that. And anger, anger in society now is just unbelievable.
Oh, it's We were just talking about this today. I don't know if you saw Chris Scott's video when he stopped with at Strathmore yesterday.
Yeah.
And like the town of Strathmore, or somebody complained, and the director of community and protective services came to remove him from public property, trying to tell him that he couldn't have his independence, but they couldn't have a political conversation on public property. So, anyways, kudos to Chris Scott for handling that. Of course he would, because Chris is Chris, right? But they sent the RCMP there.
So my question is, would they do the same thing for Tom Lukasik with the Forever Canada bus? Would that be the same? Would they do the same thing for Thomas that they did for Chris? Is what I want to know. And this is just the difference we have in culture right now. It seems to be good for thee, but not me.
Yeah, that's right. It's ever since COVID, I think it's just been, the division has been getting worse and worse. And like, like we talked with Dr. Trozy when we had him on, I think a lot of it does have something to do with some cognitive dissonance as a result of some things, because people are so angry. They're just so angry. But anyways, we'll get into that soon enough. How was your week? Any news to report? I'll tell you about my day in court on Friday, but you can fill us in on how everything went with your PO and everything this week. Good.
She's been on holiday, so I've been dealing with the fill-in officers, and it's been good. I got a Red Deer load on Saturday. I got to complete. I got a Jenner Alberta load tomorrow. I have to complete. So I'll be busy. I'll take Sunday off, and then Fort St. John again. I don't know what it is with Fort St. John the last while, but I've had multiple loads going up that direction. Grand Prairie, Worsley, Alberta. It's been crazy. So we've been putting the miles on, and everybody's tired. I'm going to lose 2 guys here next. I'll have them for next week, but 2 of my guys are farmers. So harvest is right here, and so Jonathan and I will be on trailers, and we'll try and hold the fort down while these 2 guys are gone cutting their hay, their harvest.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, because you're not busy enough as it is. Right? Like, wow.
How did you had a court date last week? How did that go?
Yeah, I did. It didn't go very well, if I'm being honest. I don't think I'm going to win this one at all. But that's okay. It is what it is. And but I can't obviously talk too much about it because talking about this case and the judge and how this whole case has been ran is basically why I'm in this situation. But it was honestly, Chris, you and I have sat through some pretty long days in court where it was a gong show, and that's exactly what Friday. It was honestly the most embarrassing day in court that we've had. And I think Lawrence went in there and did a great job, but he didn't have a chance. She kept cutting him off. She was like finishing the Crown's sentences. She's probably watching this right now, actually, because she is keeping an eye on us. She does say things when she's watching what we're doing. But it was just like she actually threatened more conditions on me than to vary my order so that I could travel for work. And again, like the legacy media is all reporting is so I can go to the White House and on a cruise. Well, the Rebel News cruise is not a vacation. I mean, it's a beautiful setting to work. Don't get me wrong, but it's work. You're up, you're with the guests. You have to do speaking things. There's always something to be doing, and obviously, I'm not to go to the White House anytime soon.
Which is just, anyways. Foolish. I mean, your lawyer Lawrence brought up the fact that I travel across the border all the time for my work right now, and she completely disregarded that, right?
Mm-hmm. She said she didn't have any evidence to prove that, although she did actually put it in your order, so she should know. Yeah. And she is watching us. She knows what we're up to, right? Yeah. So
I've always had respect for her. I was kind of like, I would love to someday sit down and have a coffee with her in a room and just pick her brain on certain things. But yeah, I'm not comfortable with the way the court process works. It is completely slow, and I don't know. When I hit my job in the morning, I give her all day long until the job is done, and I go as hard as I can. You get as much done as in a day as you can, because the next day is going to be busy, and that's obviously not the same mentality when it comes to courts in this country, I guess. But that's a totally different area that I'm used to.
Well, Chris, if you were just trying to, traffic cocaine or fentanyl, you'd be fine. But because you're awesome, you're not. I'll just go through the chat. I'm just going to go through the chat here and say hello to a few people before we bring our guest on. We've got Carmela in. Hello, Carmela. Welcome. Looking forward to another great show. Thank you. You know what? We are really enjoying doing this. It's really great. Carla's back. Thank you for coming.
We got our friend Shadow.
Lise.
Shadow, shout out to Shadow. And anybody has a
Is
chance
Shadow
to go.
in there?
Yeah, Shadow's in there. He has got an
Yeah.
important interview coming up. I suggest everybody go to Shadow's page and check it out. I don't know if it's happened yet or not. I know I shared it on my page the other day. So check out Shadow. He's a good friend and he does a lot of good out here.
Yeah, he does. He is an amazing guy, and yes, he's good. Well, tonight I am, first of all, thank you to Julie Gamble for getting in touch with Chris and recommending that we bring our next guest onto the show tonight. She recommended that we get a hold of, well, he used to be a physician assistant down the States. So he is actually our very first American guest, and we are thrilled. We love our American friends. And, you know, again, I've said this, actually, I feel like I've said this the last 3 weeks in a row, but, you know, with all the Fauci information coming out, there was more text messages that were released today. His emails are coming out. And like we were just talking before the show, Chris, like it seems like everybody that was standing on the right side of history is being persecuted. And the people that created these problems and this mess to begin with are just all walking away scot-free. And in Fauci's case, of course, he has an auto pen pardon. So we're really hoping for justice. But our guest tonight was a physician assistant. And what a great story. If you have a chance, please, I recommend you pick up a copy of The Most Dangerous Man in Washington by Scott Miller. It's a fairly thick book. It's so good. I read it in 3 days, like 3 sittings. I read it. It's very good. And it's got quite a story. And he was another, like the lives that this man saved, the people that he helped, but also the persecution that he's faced, him and his family has faced. And it's funny now that I've read his book, and I feel like I know them. Like I feel like I could have him and Shelley and their family over for dinner. You know what I mean? But without further ado, we want to catch up with Scott, catch up with his story, and find out what comes next. So welcome, Scott Miller, to House Arrest. How are you, Scott?
Scott? Oh, your mic's off.
You're muted. There we go.
There you go.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's funny when you said that with the book. It's what people have said. It feels like my goal was I wanted people to know what it was like. Like what's it like to go through that? And so I like telling stories, and so it's like let's try and make it as though they were standing with me going through the circus.
Yeah,
it was a circus.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really how it came across. And like I said to you on the phone, your sense of humor, your sarcasm, it's like right up my alley. Like I felt it was a book where I was like, I would find myself laughing and then I'd be crying and then I'd be so mad because reading the stories of the people that you were trying to help, and but also the good stories too. So before we get started into your story, Scott, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for pushing back. Thank you for believing in God and believing in yourself. And thank you for all of the lives that you saved and all the people that you helped. I mean, it's, we need more like you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And ditto. I mean, what you guys have done. And I was telling you this when we were on the phone, you know, there were times where I had so many people, colleagues, family saying, you have to shut up. Like you have to, you're a target. And not just, they'd already taken my license. They're like, you're a target. And, you know, we had death threats and shot holes through our office and stuff like that. So it wasn't just random concern. It was fairly legitimate. And then I see y'all, I'm like, well, some Canadians can raise that kind of hell in the most beautiful way. Whereas like, because I didn't have police surrounding me. Right? I mean, well, I just once with my family accidentally in San Diego, but I'm looking at them, that's courage, right? I mean, like that takes, it just takes so much courage. So, well, if some Canadians can do it, I can do a little extra. So yeah, I mean, seriously, so thank you. It was just a privilege to watch that kind of, I look at it as patriotism, standing up against just overt known.
Yeah,
it was.
Well, I'm like you. I think everyone just got sick of seeing other people suffer. You know, like even before that started, we were already hearing. Well, very early on, we were hearing the stories about the depression in children that were being taken out of school, just the alcoholism. I mean, in Canada, We couldn't go to the gym. That gyms were the first thing they locked down. But you bet if you want to go buy yourself a joint or a bottle of whiskey, the liquor stores were open, the cannabis stores were open. In our stores up here, Scott, they actually had roped off and parts in grocery stores or stores where the products were deemed non-essential,
Yes.
right? And as we were talking about in the intro, I mean, that was the division too, right? I mean, when you start creating a class that's essential and a class that's non-essential, you're already starting to create that horrible division that we've seen so much of.
Scott, I wanted to mention something too. I've traveled the U.S. for the better part of 30 some years now, trucking all across North America. And one thing I always noticed was how you guys held Old Glory high and proud.
Yes.
It's always something I felt like Canada didn't quite do as well to the extent that America does, the U.S. And during Freedom Convoy, I seen that with the Canadian flag. I seen how we held that flag tall, and that was it was a huge thing to be able to come together with the U.S. and both be able to hold our flags as high as we possibly could. That was one of the proudest moments, I think, for me, knowing that we leveled up to that, because for so many years I've seen just the American flags always the huge ones in the middle of the prairies in mid central. So that was an awesome thing.
Well, I think the other thing, I mean, at least for me, I saw it in hands of people that gave it the right kind of meaning, right? This was like what we were talking about. These are like what you guys were doing and what you were, the movement that you created. You know, I was a nobody in Washougal, Washington. So I did most of my stuff kind of underground until I was, I spoke out quite a bit, but we had this group that got started called Patriots United that I was part of from the medical side. And, to be surrounded by an auditorium of actual true patriots and to see that where it wasn't lip service. These were people like our tribe that formed because of it was truly a tribe that put God first and the sanctity of our sovereignty and our freedom second. And it was just you just felt so good being around.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and to echo what Chris said, like I grew up along border towns in Saskatchewan, and the same thing, I always grew up like in awe. I literally in awe of the patriotism from Americans, for their flag, for their country. And so the Freedom Convoy, and I've always been a proud Canadian. I left my, except for the last few years in COVID there, I was starting to question it a little bit, obviously. But for me, I felt like the Freedom Convoy was the first time that I got to feel that sense of just like, yeah, my country, and like being on the streets of Ottawa and just the love that we had, the gratitude. I mean, we couldn't stop. Every stop that we made across the country, and even to this day, Scott, people will come up to myself and Chris and the others and say, like, I was planning my suicide until I turned on my TV and I saw the trucks rolling. So it's incredible the dark place that we were at. But I mean, and nobody ever would have thought that was going to come from Canada, right?
Not at that time. No, I mean, oh my goodness, when because that's right in that time where I told you the story about Daniel Nagasi, is from I think Alberta and British Columbia had licenses, yes. But getting fired, or I think he lost his license or fired for prescribing ivermectin to like 2 people in the hospital. I'm like, good gravy. Like, what is going on? It was just the tear.
He saved them. Yeah. He saved them.
Yeah. But you guys had it bad. Like Washington State was bad. Canada, I couldn't understand. Kind of same thing. It's like, how are they letting this happen? I looked at our country too. I'm like, where's everybody's? They've got a pickup truck. They're a Marine sticker on it. You've got a gun. Take that gun out. Sorry, take that gun out and hold it proudly. Like, stand up for Yes. I mean, where is everybody that's saying we should stand up against tyranny as they lock themselves inside? And it was so frustrating because I was the only one in a store that didn't wear a mask. I was the only, and I was like, come on, people. Like,
I think One of the things I noticed, I would cross into North Dakota all the time when I was trucking across the borders, and North Dakota was open for business. There was no mask mandates. There was no showing your COVID vaccine passport, so you could eat a meal in a restaurant. Life is normal. And then I would come back to my own country, and Canada established what they called the Arrive Can app. So we had to show an app on our phone with our vaccine history, as well as our passport, to enter back into our own country. And then as truckers, we were supposed to isolate for 14 days or something. It was ridiculous. It was time to end. The government's game and their fraud was up. And I'm thankful that I was one of the ones that took a stand. One of many, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
And really,
I want to appreciate your shout out to North Dakota, because I grew up in North Dakota in the Grand Forks area. So, yeah, my brother would drive up to Winnipeg with a bottle of whiskey that he would give to some guy so he could play in a no-check hockey league. And so,
Nice.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. Hilarious. Well, I want to get into a bit of your story. And I mean, I guess one of the things that really struck me about your story, Scott, was very early on when you were talking about working in California. And I think you had gotten you became a physician's assistant and started working in a clinic with other doctors and stuff like that. And the great thing about Scott's story is that what you'll quickly learn is that he took the time with his patients. He would investigate. He would ask them questions. They wouldn't just come in and he'd say, what are your symptoms, and write down a prescription. And in the end, him and his family ended up relocating to Washington because some of the patients from some of the other doctors were noticing the excellent care that Scott was giving to his patients. And so they were moving over to him, which obviously sort of ruffled a few feathers. And then you headed to Washington, correct?
We did, yeah. And,
yes.
Well, and so many of our friends had moved up there. We were flying up there for 4th of July. I would fly up there to golf. And why are we here? I mean, all of our downtime was pretty much spent going up to see our friends, and it was such a beautiful state. I mean, just
yes.
I loved that southwestern part of Washington, and so I mean the whole state. But I remember looking at Shelley saying, "What are we doing in Central California?" I've done like almost 8 years of practice in the Valley. I treasured it, but I felt like it was time to try something else.
It is. Well, I have not been to Washington, but what I've seen, it looks beautiful anyways. Yeah.
It's amazing. And it was, there's all of these steps. It's kind of funny because people say each thing was this step in we'll say like God's plan of setting me up to be in a position. I was in a very unique position. I was a single provider in a standalone practice that I owned. So, apart from my office manager, who, I mean, she was technically my employee unless I was doing something retarded where she's like, Scott, don't do that. Like, let's think through this, right? I got to do whatever I wanted. And so if somebody was, if when she put up cover your cough, I'm like, take that down and never put anything up like that again. I don't want, like, if somebody doesn't know, I don't want to treat people like they're foundational idiots because they're telling us to do this. I'm not checking anybody's temperature at the door. I will not allow anything to happen because of this propaganda. Just this space, when people walk into my clinic, is going to look exactly like it did a week ago, and I will not change that.
Good for you.
Good.
That's one of the things that shocked me so much about all of that whole period, and I remember talking about it when we got to Ottawa, Chris, but I remember thinking, like, we waited for the doctors to say something and they didn't. And then we waited for the nurses. And then, of course, we were like, the military and the RCMP are not going to let this fly. The RCMP is our police service up here, our federal police service. We waited and waited and waited for somebody to stand up and push back. And then, of course, in Canada, we started to see our doctors. I mean, a virologist was one of the first people to stand up, Dr. Bridle. And he was immediately fired and canceled and smeared. The next one was a pediatric surgeon. I think Dr. Christian, right?
Dr. Francis
He was a pediatric surgeon. And he came out and said, look, you don't need to vaccinate kids. And it's too soon. Like, they're not at risk. And same thing happened to him. And so we watched all of the people that, well, and there wasn't a lot, that were
No.
visible for sure. But I mean, we did watch the people that did try to stand up and push back just get completely persecuted, all of us.
Well, and that's the thing where I was asked that question so many times. Where were your colleagues? And I'm like, well, they worked for clinics, right? That was the unique thing. And I joke that God took away the gene that one should have for self-preservation, because some of this stuff that I was, like, all right, this is nuts. Like, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
There was one point where I remember telling Carrie, my office manager, I'm like, how is the state letting me do this? I was disrupting so many systems that my heart was so happy at how it's like they were forcing billion-dollar corporations to change to change what they were doing to allow my patients to be as bad an exemption. And they went to Costco. They had police would get called on my patients. I'm like, screw that. I'd hop in my car, drive over there, and unleash all holy hell. And they would have to beg. I would tell people, I'm going to bend them to my will, and by that meaning truth. I'm going to bend them. And I had that on the side because they went with the letter of the law, which is Jay Inslee's idiotic mandates. But he always had one clause in there, and I was in a position to fit that part of that clause. So I would just write whatever exemption was necessary.
Right.
To move around freely. And so they ended up having, all these different corporations were having to go back. They're like, well, we'll check with our attorneys. And eventually they would find a loophole in it. But for brief periods of time, whether it was Quest Labs or our radiology departments, they all had to see my patients without masks and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible to move them.
Yeah. It is absolutely.
Everybody did that though. Like, what happens if more people like you actually took a stand early on? Would things have changed? Would the rules have changed?
Well, yeah. Right? You get enough people to stand up against something. The problem is the penalty is so high, right? It's like you've got your school debt, you've got a mortgage. If you have practice, you've got to practice. And in the end, when there's the legal, you're looking at six figures just off the top of legal battles. Then you're looking at the time of the legal battles. So in the end, I had an extremely busy practice. I didn't lose my job. When I hear it's like, well, I was going to sell my practice. It's like, oh, I forgot that I had that. At some point in my life, I would have had that opportunity. It's like to practice. And it's like, I couldn't pay somebody to come into my practice because anyone associated with my name would have immediately been targeted.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you started off in pediatrics. And then moved into, I think you got into acute care at the onset of the pandemic as more and more patients, you started seeing more and more patients, right? And I guess, I'm so careful about the things that I say because I never want to get anybody in trouble, but you've got it all written in your book. And it's really interesting to me how you transitioned from looking after all these children. And that was, a lot of your first red flags was, why aren't these guys in school? And you got these kids coming in to see you that are, watching videos on self-harm, and they're depressed, and they can't see their friends. This is gut wrenching stuff. And then you moved into the more of the acute care. But the one thing that really struck me was that, you're talking about patients in hospitals and you're talking to their doctors, and they're saying, well, no, we can't do that because this is our protocol. So, at some point, and I asked one of my lawyers happened to be here last night, and I asked her, like at what point did our doctors stop being scientists and looking for their own solutions and doing the best thing that they could do for their patients? And instead, you're calling the hospital, recommending this medication, that medication. And they're like, well, we have this protocol and this is exactly what we're going to stick with. But you also have to keep in mind that hospitals during COVID were getting paid for every time somebody with COVID died when they lost a patient, which is
a lot
huge.
Of money. A lot of money. I started having people send in, I was asked to join a number of groups. So I would have people send in the bills, or what the insurance had been billed. And, I was thinking it was $120,000, maybe $150,000+. Oh no. Oh my goodness. You're talking minimum, almost minimum 250. And then I'd see that 578,000 and 830, upwards of $2 to $3 million of payouts. And that was the thing where living doesn't pay.
No.
Right.
No.
There's no,
No, it doesn't.
and anytime we got somebody, like we could get a doctor to make some changes and you would start to see improvement. And I would warn families, I'd warn them across the board. I said, don't get your hopes up with that, because you have to stay so vigilant, because the minute they start to see improvement, because we could get the docs to make the minute they start to see improvement, somebody comes in there like, oh, no, we need to stop that. We need to discontinue that therapy. We need to stop these, because the reason I was able to get them to change is I would say, obviously, this isn't the treatment, but if we can do something small, right? Like put them on some melatonin and vitamin D, and maybe nebulize with some budesonide because they're on a ventilator and it's a closed system, so you don't have to worry about nebulizing COVID, the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? And so they start doing it, and all of a sudden, they start getting better to the point where they could actually extubate them safely. And I could feel it in my system, the oh shits, that those doctors were like, how do we undo this? Because they didn't think they were going to get better. They just did it to appease us. Because they have no idea. They had no idea why thiamine, why B1 would have any benefit. You would think they would. They would have no idea why Montelukast would. Anyway, my point is, so they would do it to appease us, and all of a sudden it's like, whew, what's happening? We were able to extubate them now, and that was not the plan. Because they had a $300,000 payout, and it was coming up.
Sick.
I had a cousin, Scott, who used to smuggle ivermectin into the hospital where her dying husband was being ready to put on a ventilator, I believe. Diane may be in the comments. And she would smuggle ivermectin in, and she would rub the paste on his inner arm when the doctors weren't looking or the nurses weren't looking. And then he started to improve, and he walked out of the hospital not long after that. And then she made the point of making sure that she told everyone in the hospital what she was doing secretly.
Yeah, good.
which is the problem for us, because we wanted to try and get people into the hospitals. But I had we just made smoothies, right? We'd grind everything up and we'd put it into smoothies. And here's what was crazy about it, though, because you had to have like little sleight of hand. So we'd get have somebody have a gift card to Starbucks, have some vitamins. So I didn't want people to have to go randomly buy vitamins. We just had a truckload of them, put them in baggies, and we'd put the vitamins in a bag and ask the nurses, can you at least give them the vitamins? And then there'd be the smoothie. So it's like nothing to see here, because otherwise, right? It's like, this is just a yummy smoothie with a little fiber in it, right? And it was a smoothie that helped us get hundreds of people out of the ICU.
That's amazing. Absolutely. And that's what I mean. Like you got meds in there, you got vitamins in there. You were helping families bust their loved ones out of the hospital. And oh my God, it was like, they should make your story into a movie. I actually hope they do. But yeah, like you were busy and nonstop.
It was the scariest. If somebody, I've given talks and lectures about specifics of how, especially with doctors, how I could I call it manipulate, because you couldn't talk facts, you couldn't talk science. But what people don't realize is people like, oh, that's so cool. No, it isn't. It's the scariest thing I ever did, because we were talking about it. There's first place and second place is dead. So you have to be first place. I'm a fan of sport, right? And you see somebody coming in second and they're so dejected, and I was like, you just got $500,000 and another sponsor for whatever. It's like, for me, second place was a family that's completely crushed, right? Yeah. Just a destroyed family, and apparently a really shitty job on my part to try and save their life, But it's scary, because you put that on when you're talking to these families. They become, you become friends with them, and it's like I'm feeling what they're going through, and the amount of time. There are times where I'd be involved for 3+ weeks, 4 weeks, and it would. Fortunately, almost all of them came out on the winning end. But I know the names of the ones that didn't. I've spoken to them. I'm friends with them, and I'm appreciative that they don't hate me for failing.
Yeah. Right.
It's a
Right.
hard pill to swallow. Like
It would be.
failing in this situation is really hard. Like, and I tell people, you don't want to do this because you get sucked in, and if you don't have super thick skin, or you can't be super sarcastic, or people like, why do you, you're a Christian, why do you swear so much in those situations? I'm like, because it's easier to do that than to break everything around me and then have to figure out how to pay to replace it, because something has to give, and
Yep.
I have to get out, because there's so much desperation, and so there's nothing fun about it, except when you see that picture, right? I get a text, the husband and wife in the car, and they're driving home with ear-to-ear grins. It's like, oh,
where is this gentleman in here? Brian. Oh my God. I got to the part of this book where his friend Brian, I don't know if you can see him. Anyways, Brian was one of the gentlemen that he helped when he was in the hospital. And I cried when I got to the end of his story and found out that he went home, Scott, because I was reading it thinking, oh my God, like this, he's going into it. Like, you told his story so well. And then you've got a great picture of him. Like, this is your success. That is your success. You did that.
Brian and his wife Kim, their family. I remember going over there. But here's what you didn't tell was the other part of it, where I'd been going. I mean, at that specific time, I think I had been up for about 70 hours, and I was tired. And I had already gone to Walmart to get his meds because his wife was sick, and I knew he needed oxygen. But I lived 35 minutes from my clinic. So I didn't go get it. I didn't have Carrie meet me there. I was like, we can wing it and see if we can pull him through with the nebulizers. And he called me at like 6 the next morning, barely able to breathe. Had I not sucked, right? Like, I was just so I hadn't seen my family in days. I was so tired, and that's that kind of apathy, right? Because, but that's why I told him, and I told Kim. I mean, I'm just, thank God. But when Shelley said that to me, he had been in for 2 days, and when I hadn't heard from him, she's like, "What do you think happened to Brian?" I was like, "No, he's probably dead." And she's like, "Scott, like, F me."
Yeah.
I should have tried harder, but we try. I mean, like, we got him out. It was the story that's underneath the story that I was able to tell is really, really cool, of what his wife did to save his life. She's the hero.
Excellent. Well, and I mean, if you go through the book, like, we're talking to you guys, you don't understand. Scott was going to people's homes, actually doing house calls. Well, he set up his practice in his garage because the initial building that they were going to go in wasn't ready yet and needed some renovation. So he set up a whole clinic in his garage. And but he would go into people's homes. He would like build nebulizers out of CPAP machines and all these things that he could find to save people's lives. He was rifling through. One of the funniest stories was you going into that guy's garage and trying to create that adapter between, I think it was the oxygen tank and a CPAP machine. Oh my God. You're just out there, like, just completely MacGyvering in the middle of a
snowstorm. It was so cold. It was Christmas night in this blizzard.
Yes,
I mean, like, one of the worst blizzards. It was Southern Oregon, and I kept forgetting my gloves. I was so cold, going back and forth from their house down to the shop, trying to figure out how to do it. And it was a turkey baster, a Bic pen.
That's right, a turkey baster. That's right. It was a turkey
baster.
Scott, we have a question from one of our faithful listeners here, from Fawn here, just asking for the Ivor and how often you should take it, a regular regiment of it. Do you have any ideas on something safe and effective for just preventative health?
If I wake up and I'm doing this, I get a little scratch in my throat, I take 24 milligrams of ivermectin.
24? Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, I source, I mean, I have a guy. I have my trusted sources that I developed over the last 5 years. So it's very easy for other patriots that have their own pharmacies that hook me up. But it doesn't have to be 24, but since I have 24, 12, 18. If it's from India, it's 12. It's from Mexico, it's 6 milligrams. But I like 24. I think 24 is a good number. So, and if anyone is listening to the words I'm saying and they think this next part is going to be crazy, it's not. Colchicine used for gout.
Oh,
Colchicine. I was asked one time at a pretty big event if you had 2 things that you could have on hand. I said ivermectin and colchicine.
nice. Good to know.
So colchicine.
And what the other?
3 of those main pro-inflammatory cytokines that we see. So colchicine, you get a beefy red toe, right? Gout, like just flaming red toe. You say take some colchicine and it goes away. It's like, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's
Because nobody could ever get rid of gout. Like, I mean, that's all I've really ever heard about it. There's, you know, you just sort of have to suck it up until, you know, it goes
there's
away.
dietary, right? So you when you go into nutritional aspects, that's a super important thing. And I'm going to throw in vitamin D and melatonin. Melatonin was, I mean, I did really high dose melatonin for people.
And I was just going to bring that up because that's one of the things. I'm not a doctor. Like most of the words that you wrote in here about medicines, I can't even pronounce. But some of them I was following. Some of them I understand. But your research into melatonin, like I just assumed that it was just to help me sleep better or make me fall asleep. But the stuff that you found out, like you used it regularly on your patients, it was one of your go-tos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I had people nebulizing it.
Yes. Yeah, I'd never heard that before.
I mean, it was not random. Like these were, it was my source stuff. But you know, if you have an 88-year-old with, you know, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease with pneumonia, and he's not doing well, and you look at what melatonin does to inhibit all of that fluid leakage into the lungs.
Wow,
I mean, it's such a beautiful pro-hormone. It just makes my heart happy.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Kat Wright says it is also anti-cancer too. Interesting.
Yeah, and they use it as an adjunct to neurodegenerative disc disease, etc. So when you look at its underlying mechanisms, it's kind of like ivermectin, where it's like the first 18 things of what it's able to do for somebody like me, because I had to chart it all out. Like my wall, I'm insane, man. It was just
right.
I mean, because I was just everything I see, I was like writing it out. It's like because I'm trying to figure out
like the meme with the strings and the guy with the smoke and putting everything all together.
I told the story. I had two different Bluetooths with 2 different phones, listening to separate lectures simultaneously, trying to make sure that I was a consumption machine of information, because I was trying to learn critical care pulmonology. I was trying to relearn and just not infectious disease, but I like when it hit, I realized from an illness standpoint, I didn't know anything.
Right.
I mean, it's like I wasn't like foundationally retarded. I used the word retarded towards me because it's like I know I wasn't retarded. I just didn't have the tools, and it was like the Holy Spirit just kept. It was like downloading this stuff into my brain, and I'd find these things. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It was just such a gift to have that information given
Absolutely.
to me.
Scott,
and I think, you know, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, we got somebody in the chat here wanting to know, do you have a channel? Do you have a
Yes, I'll put it up.
How do people find you?
I mean,
Substack. There you go.
Okay, so I did. Yeah, I started that, and I haven't been that. I've got probably 15 and way more than that things that are in draft that are really fun. I just haven't because I have a friend that's like, well, you need more, graphics on it, or you need to make it look better. And I'm like, but the words, the stuff in it is. I felt so inadequate because I see that, so I just kind of put it on hold because I didn't want to be mocked and ridiculed for my lack of, visual. So it's just sitting there in my Substack, all these things as drafts, but
never mind that the information could potentially save your life. It's got to look pretty.
That's rude. Fair,
exactly.
But rude. Okay, I suck. You're right. Thanks. I appreciate that.
We've got millerwellness.net, and you can also find him.
No, we had to take no.
Oh. No. Okay, I'll take that.
That almost got me thrown in jail.
Oh no.
Well, we're definitely taking it off, but it's not so bad. You could do jail. I've read your book, Scott. Trust me, I've spent 50 days in jail. You got it, no problem.
I got a measly 26 hours for crying out loud. Why can't I, like, they're still trying though for us, so don't worry.
You got to up your game.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Try a little harder. And I wanted to ask you too, do you have, like, how can people support you and help you? We haven't even got into your legal battles yet, but I mean, these people have tried to destroy you. They tried to destroy your family. I was waiting to get to the part in your book where you guys were living in a tent. You told me that you and your family lived in a tent for 4 years. I guess I got to wait for part 2 for that.
No, that's part 3. So,
oh, okay.
Oh no,
yeah,
no,
okay.
that would be part 2. I mean,
Yeah.
not we only, like, my family only lived in tents for 20 months. So we came at our second. We were coming to our second winter in Washington when we had to flee.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I only had to winterize our outdoors, our gear twice, which was nice.
Isn't that insane?
Well, yeah, like a tent in Washington in the winter can't be.
It was. You know, I think I look back. There was one night. I mean, just this storming. We had this 12 by 20 foot tarp bolted in and had it covering our tents, trying to cover most of it. My daughter had kind of really cool, like, white duck yurt type of tent, so she was all cozy, you know. But you know, it was back to nature, you know.
Right.
So,
yeah.
We knew.
Well, I mean, I love tenting.
I have a zipper. It's like, Cohen's up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no
It
kidding.
was like, that's Pete. Yeah, and it's like, that's Cohen, right? It was cute.
And your dear sweet wife, like, what a huge support. And I can't imagine. Like I was going to say, I love tenting. That's my preferred camping method. I like cooking on the fire and, you know, being under the trees, but I don't think I'd want to live there permanently. I don't know how you guys did it.
That's fair. I would say,
yeah.
You know, there's a certain point where you're like, oh, this is enough. But we were in the lawfare on us. It was coming from multiple angles, and they took our resources away to be able to fight all of it. I mean, it was just, we just had to problem solve, you know. So it was,
yeah, right.
it wasn't a singular thing. We were getting hit from, if there was an angle that we didn't get hit from, I'm not sure what it would be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, lost your license. And you guys relocated. Did you guys relocate right to Texas after you left Washington?
Well, I mean, yeah, we loaded up at like 9:45 at night and we
got out of Dodge.
It's like, you leave now. Shelley calls it, we Von trapped ourselves away, you know, across the country.
Yes.
So it was either that or they were gonna get me.
So now when you sit and listen to the Fauci files coming out right now, Scott, and listening to what actually transpired there, do you feel like vindicated somewhat? We need accountability, but do you feel vindicated for what you did and your part in the tyranny?
My vindication was, and I say this, when I have somebody that's in the acute stages of dying, and then I see him, I mean literally, and then I see him at church 2 weeks later, like that, you know, and for me to have have been gifted with the opportunity to do that for thousands of people, or like in the acute stage, we'll say maybe a few thousand people, right? For me, because I already knew, and I mean, I knew from the moment Fauci opened his mouth that we were being sold a den of lies. It was so obvious. I mean, it was instant. I called my brother, who's a surgeon. I'm like, dude, he's like, yeah, he's full of bloop. I was like, cool, okay, just wanted to confirm, because I can be a little hyperbolic about certain things, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I think I was vindicated every day that I was gifted the ability to care for people who were shut out of a system.
That's a good point. Yeah, I feel the same way.
Kevin says, "God bless you, dear Scott, and God bless Chris and Tamara."
Well, thank you.
Tamara more. Just kidding. Tasha did put a link in the comments, by the way, everyone, for Scott's book. We'll just drop that in there. Yeah, there it is. It's coming up there now. The Amazon link to his book, The Most Dangerous Man in Washington, which is so funny because you maybe they think you're the most dangerous, but I think you were probably the awesomest.
Well, that's when I heard that. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, oh my goodness, when I started seeing, because of the legal thing, I was able to see some of the internal memos, and I was like, oh, whoa. I mean, they had an emergency meeting. The Washington Medical Commission had an emergency meeting on September 22nd or September 23rd of 21, to change the wording in, under the auspices of how they could come after people because of me. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
I made them work harder on a Tuesday, and I felt bad for them. Like,
what's that famous saying? You know you're flying over the target when you're taking the most amount of flack.
Yeah.
That's so true. But that's like
they sent me that link, and I watched the whole thing. And I was like, "Aw, you guys."
Did you play the world's smallest violin when you were singing?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking. I was like, look at you guys trying to take me down. It's like, in my mind, I would listen to Muse, Invincible. I mean, because I'm a nobody, right? I've watched all these movies. I know what the state can do. I know the power that they have, and it's unlimited. And I know that I have none. But that's when I sent you what I had written.
That's right. Yeah.
What you think you have, it's laughingly benign. The things they came after me for, it's like, oh, they only knew. Oh, I feel
exactly
bad for them because they could have buried me with real substantive things.
Yeah.
Right. Literally, they literally could have.
That's what they do. Who was the Canadian doctor?
There was somebody.
Okay.
I was just gonna say there's so many similarities. Like, like I said, our stories are so different, but like they're just different battles in the same war. And like going back to what you were just talking about, like being so vilified, and you're like, what? Like, I'm just me, and Chris and I and others were listed on the ideologically motivated violent extremist list before we even got to Ottawa. They had done criminal profiles on us. They knew everything about us. We've been called domestic terrorists. We've been called racists. And I'm Indigenous, by the way. My background is Métis and Scottish. So I'm Indigenous, but I was still called a racist. And then, of course, when I said I was Indigenous, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to be. Yay, you.
Like winning.
One of our charges, the one charge that they really want to get us on that we were both acquitted of is intimidation.
Yes. And
I always, especially when I'm speaking, because if you saw me, Scott, I'm 5 feet tall. I'm 112 pounds, 0.5. Like I'm a little 54-year-old grandmother, and I'm intimidating. Like, what? I'm sorry. What kind of make alpha males great again? Is all I can say. Make alpha males great again. Like I'm the least scariest person I know.
But you're in a truck.
I had a conversation with somebody out east the other day who was involved with politics. We were having a candid conversation, and this person said that I can't believe how they came down on Tamara. They didn't come down on Chris or Pat or like they did with this little Tamara. What threat did you, impose, Tamara, over everyone else? It was, I could see it.
I was level-headed. I was asking for peace. I was asking for love. I was saying respect the law. And so they have to try and do, well, we all were. And they have to, it's the love that they hate. And that's the thing, Scott, in your case too. When you really, truly care about something and they, like, the dark hates the light. Mm-hmm. The dark hates the light, and it'll always try to snuff it out. And like lots of things that have happened in the meantime, Scott, in both of our lives is people just being miserable. But the reason people hate us so much, and myself included, is that I'm not miserable. No. I am not sitting here broken. I mean, come at me, bro. We're getting sued for $300 million. Like, you know what I own? Nothing. And I'm happy, actually. I own nothing, and I'm happy because I have nothing that they can take away from me. Exactly. My freedom comes from God. So just because some judge in the nation's capital says I can't leave my house does not make me any less free. It just means I can't move around. And that's what people hate the most.
Yeah, that we're not broken. I agree 100%. And they will never break us. I don't care.
I seriously, what you said, the parallels, like I saw an internal memo where they were going to get literally they had me listed as part of an extremist group, a domestic terrorist. They were going to get the FBI involved and local police. I was like, oh, stop it.
That's right. Yeah.
Stop.
Big guns, hey?
Come on.
The FBI involved. We have CSIS. You guys have the FBI. When did governments roll over people get so overbearing? Is what how did we allow this? Is we're the people, we're supposed to elect a government and just and point our country and our leaders in the direction we want to go, and something's changed.
Yeah. Well, in that, because you look at it, it's like I'm a regular guy. Yeah. Like I'm just the only thing that made me threatening was my inability to comply. Right? Like my refusal to comply, which shouldn't. That's not that threatening. I refuse to bend the knee to ignorant scientific nihilism. I wouldn't do it. But I mean, there was no thing different about me from when it happened. I was just like, it's a hard no, because I like the easy button. I do. It's like I try and find the easy path, and if I consent to one thing I know is a lie, then it's going to make it easier to consent to something else. Like Shelley would say, why can't you just wear a mask when you was like, because if I do and anyone who knows me sees me or a patient sees me, they're probably going to think that I'm wearing it because it works.
Right. Yes. I never thought of that.
Right. They see me and it's like, well, if Miller's wearing it, then maybe there's some benefit and function to it. I'm like, under no circumstances is there any benefit or function to it. In fact, it's the exact opposite. So now I'm living a lie, and then I have to go back to the office, and I'm like, I can't do it. I will not. I refuse to do something publicly that I would never do privately to decrease the potential that somebody's going to be pissed at me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I looked at it every time I would go into, almost every time, I don't know if I told the story in the book where this gal, this is early on, she taps me on the shoulder. She's like, Jesus can see you're not wearing a mask. And I was like, I know. And I'm literally listening to a virology lecture. So I've got my earbud in. I only had one earbud in. I'm listening to a virology lecture. And I turned to her. I was like, I know, but I'm going to tell you a story. Because I didn't take offense to it. I was just like, I know.
Right.
He can see it. She just made a statement of fact to me. That's all she did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just can see I'm not wearing a mask. I didn't know how she meant it apart from she just made an actual statement that was true. I was like, oh, she believes Jesus. So starting there, it's like, so I'm talking to a Christian. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my mindset. I never thought, like, am I going to be attacked?
Yeah.
And we had this beautiful conversation, and she was Black. We're African American. I go with Black because I didn't know where she's from. Just wonderful woman. I said, by the way, you're Black, and you're going to absorb much less of the sun and turn it into vitamin D. And I'm pretty sure there's some secondary, underlying conditions going on. So we had this conversation. All of a sudden, there's about 8 or 9 people surrounding me. Her friend is behind her with her glasses fogged up. And I said, and just by the way, your friend is like made hand love to her glasses, rubbing it on her shirt, back on, and her mask on. She should have had to go to the bathroom every single time. And she did.
Right.
Science behind it. So I told her a story about me jacking up a field, a clean field when I was trying to do a spinal tap on this 9-month-old baby many years ago. It's like this. These aren't. We're throwing these words out like personal protective equipment. It's only protective if you're doing it correctly.
Yes.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just theater. So
exactly.
I went up to the checkout counter and had them pull out a little receipt. I wrote my name and phone number and I handed it to her. I said, if you ever need anything, give me a call.
Nice.
Right? Like that's the thing that I got to do when I walked through stores free and in my wild,
Right.
Gravitate towards me, usually with contempt, but it often led to a thoughtful discourse.
Yeah. Well, and I love that in your book you talk about, you'd hear about incidents that happened in stores from your patients, and then you'd go like storming in there the next day and walking around purposely, going the other way of the wrong way from the arrow. Scott, you crazy rebel, you.
That would be so ticked. She's like, "Why would you stay there and wait for the police to show up?" I'm like, "To see what they would do." I just hang out. Like, "Sir, you can't shop here." I'm like, "Fine, I'll just browse." And they're like, "Well, you can't do that."
That's right. And then you waited and made your purchase. Oh, it was great. It's great. You guys literally have to get this book, and you're absolutely going to love it. I'm going to get Tasha to pop that in the chat once again. The Most Dangerous Man in Washington by Scott Miller. And sorry, how can people support you other than purchasing your book? Like, do you have a Give, Send, Go? Do you have?
I was looking. We do. It's funny. It's funny because I sometimes forget. Like, Shelley reminds me towards the end of every month about the check.
Exactly.
We have to write because of our legal bills. I was like, "How much is it?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "Okay." Like, how are we? Like, sometimes I don't know how we've made it. It's been from we've had enough support. I lost the practice in October of 21. We're getting into fall of 2026. I mean, it's been a journey, right? Like,
yeah, God's got your back.
I know.
That's what I tell everyone too. I like, what me worry? God's got my back, and God has your back too, obviously.
Yeah, so I still worry.
Yeah.
Because my faith. I still. Yeah. Shelley and I will watch The Chosen. We're like, how are the disciples? Like, they just saw that, and then I was like, guilty as charged, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But just like what happened during convoy, and I tell this story quite a bit. When you were on convoy, and we had a lineup of vehicles about 50 miles in length, somewhere in there. You felt the presence of God. There was a presence there, and you don't put that many vehicles together in a tight lineup on the distance of like 2,000 miles in the cold Canadian winter with ice and snow and every terrain you could possibly find, and not have a single issue, not have a single
driving around Lake Superior in January, for Pete's sake.
It was there. It was meant to be, and if you were part of it, you could feel it, physically feel it, and it changed a lot of us, And then when you're on that path, you're on the right path, and the fear is gone. I've yet to feel the fear anymore.
Well, we had so many people praying, and like, what do we do? And I'm like, praying. I mean, across the country. This is when things were easy, in my opinion, and we're praying protection over your clinic. We're praying for a dome of protection over your family. And there was an incident in October 2021. We had a big rally at my office, and Antifa decided to kind of break it up, and the dude had gotten out and pulled a gun. And so I'm like running at him. I was like, and we had a couple people that were running for Congress, so their security were like, I looking through my office window, I see my wife and kids, and they're running for the back, to take cover, and I'm running at the guy, because you want to have,
as you do,
chat, and
yeah, that's right.
This gal Peggy basically hip checks me out of the way, and she's like, no, she's pulls her firearm, and it was like, what the hell is your problem? Like, why were you running towards him instead of away? And I'm like, not because there's like, what are you trying to be here? I'm like, no, I just didn't want anyone else to get hurt.
Right. Exactly.
Like, they were there because of me. I'm responsible for people there. This is my place, whatever. It's like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew that I was the reason this was happening for the people being there, and the reason he was there. And I didn't want any collateral. So it's like, at least if we can, and I've watched so many movies that I feel like I have a skill set like John Wick.
That's right.
I know I don't have that. I am positive, because I sprained my ankle stepping off the curb a couple weeks ago.
If you're John Wick, you need a pencil. That's all you need.
You have a particular set of skills. We had a super chat here from Peter for $2. Great stream. Thanks, Scott, Tamara, and Christopher. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, but yeah, we had a dome of protection over us. And it doesn't mean be reckless, be stupid, but we didn't live in fear.
Right. Exactly. And that's the key, honestly. I think the key is to not live in fear, you know.
And that is the fear of our leaders in our government, is people that don't fear them, because that's how they stay in power.
Yeah.
We're on a slippery slope.
It's them that's scared of us. Honestly, it's them that's scared of us. And that's a reason why that they've come after people like us so bad, because, you know, we do scare them, because people that push back are a threat to their worlds that they've created, their paychecks, their jobs, their mansions, their reputation. As we're seeing, Anthony Fauci seemed more worried about his reputation and hanging out with celebrities than he did actually. Well, he was never interested in helping. Well, I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a statement of fact. So
yes,
Anthony Fauci, up until, pleading the fifth, Anthony Fauci, he made two statements over the course of all of this time that were factually sound. When he said that a mask is going to do nothing except accumulate schmutz, and it might make you feel better just because you're doing something. There's absolutely no benefit before he, did a 180. So that was the first thing they said. Then he did an interview. I think it was in Vanity Fair, and it may have been with Jennifer Garner or something like that. And
oh gosh, yeah.
I've consumed tens and tens of thousands of pages of documents and data and research. So this is just one. So I could be wrong on this, and it was about vitamin D. Right. And he's like, well, you could. And that he takes, I think he said like 9,000 IU, whatever. So the fact that he didn't just shun it. Right. So it's like, well, it could be a benefit. That was like the other one that he said relatively truthful, instead of it just being an absolute benefit. Outside of that, there isn't a single thing that I have found, and I've watched and listened to too many hours of it. There's nothing that he said that has any basis in science. Everything that he said is just a foundational and factual lie.
Yeah, everything.
And then that proceeded to go north too. Like, I know our health officials in Canada took their advice from Fauci in the States too. So and it happened all around the world. It seemed like he was the lead practitioner per se.
Except he wasn't a practitioner. He didn't treat a single person.
Right.
True.
Right. But that's what I was saying, Chris. So like earlier, like the Canadian doctors. So I'm working on a story right now that has to do with our chief medical officer here at the time, Dina Hinshaw. And, now, because she was, of course, always out there, pregnant women should be getting vaccinated. If you want to become pregnant, you should get vaccinated. If you're nursing, it's totally safe and effective. It's blah, 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 blah. And this one doctor's name keeps coming up, and there's articles on her. She's a clinical associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology, and also of medicine at the University of Calgary. And that's basically what she did, was she went out and advocated for pregnant women to get vaccinated. So Dina Hinshaw, the former chief medical officer of Alberta, and this doctor had a 2-day telethon in October 25th and to 27th of 2021. And that's all it was. It was about pressuring pregnant women to get vaccinated. And this is 10 months after Fauci's text message where he acknowledges that these are causing miscarriages.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my question is, do Canadian doctors, do they do their own research, or do they do their own science, or are they literally just getting faxed talking points from Anthony Fauci and company? Because that's really what it's like. And so if that's the case, then why are we paying our doctors so much money? Because I can get up in front of a teleprompter and cameras and read off of a piece of paper, especially for $400,000 a year. Like, why are we paying our doctors if they're not doing their own research?
Right.
But when you look at institutionally, right? So the study on masks. So with Fauci, you look at the CDC, and what is it that he's in charge of? possibly $7 billion in terms of allocating money. So you get this infectious disease doc out of UCSF San Francisco, and she does this whole thing on masks. Well, then you take a look at where she's getting her grant money. Fauci. Then you look at where she worked prior to with Fauci. So when you look at institutions, I mean, how hard is it if you can pay off? Could people like, can they really pay off Johns Hopkins and Harvard and Stanford? And it's like, well, look at where they held the 2019 pandemic preparedness summit, and it was sponsored by Johns Hopkins, right?
Right.
And then you listen to what even the Johns Hopkins pediatric Bible, the one that I used to think was decent, and it's like, well, there's no treatment for RSV for babies. It's like, how come I'm able to treat RSV so easily? Super easy to treat. But they think my treatment doesn't work, except I just kept watching it work over and over and over. According to the top pediatric doctors at Johns Hopkins, it's like, no, not only does it not work, it could potentially be harmful. It's like, what? Yeah. So how is all we have to do is have these people be like, hey, we're gonna kick you a couple $100 million. Not to the doctors, to the administrator, because when you're in those institutions and you get some, any TV show that you watch, right, and there's the administrative person, the doctor, and it's like, well, we can't do that, or we're not going to pay for this, or this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't fall in line, then we're going to have a problem. And if you don't really fall in line, you're going to be looking for another job. And at a certain point, the doctor's like, well, this is just, so we looked at the memo today.
Yeah.
Yes, this is right. Like the thing I told you with Dr. Gupta, right, where he's looking, the pulmonologist, he's like, well, tocilizumab, where it's a 3-day window. He's like, well, we don't. That's just what we picked. Other hospitals do different things. I was like, so it's not based on science,
right?
I don't
exactly.
Right? We have to have we base everything on science. Well, tell me about the tocilizumab. Why did you use it? He's like, well, it's an IL-6 inhibitor. I was like,
yeah.
Where's the science?
Why?
Well, it's the best that we have right now. And he was like, it feels weird for you to say the best when you don't know anything that I just said about what could be better that I've used effectively. Well, this is just what we're kind of allowed to do. And I was like, that's more fair. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That you're allowed to do it.
Right. Exactly. But that's what I mean. I mean, these doctors, honestly, I think it's a blessing. Well, and even if you had become an MD and went to school, I don't think your personality is just different than like you're not a yes man. And
you say if I became an MD and went to I did do dental school too, and
that's right. I know. But no, I just mean like if you would have went through like 7 or 9 years of school. I mean, I think it's to your credit that you went about, becoming a physician's assistant the way that you did, because you did still have that curiosity. And I'm sure there's a lot of great doctors out there, don't get me wrong. But what seemed to happen during COVID, as we've discussed throughout this, is like they just stopped doing science. They just stopped. You're out there practicing results and evidence-based medicine. And these guys are just reading, what somebody sent them on a piece of paper, telling them step by step what to do until somebody's dead in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, and the other benefit is, from a PA standpoint, I always wondered, it's like, when would you have to send somebody to a pulmonologist? When would you have to? I mean, after you've exhausted, unless it's an acute thing, unless you have to exhaust everything, right? So if I have a child that has asthma, and this is back, we're talking previous life, right? And I'm like, okay, well, how come?
Right.
You would think that's the first question. It sounds so stupid, right? It was like, well, how come they have asthma? And the parents are like, no one's ever asked that. And it's like, well, we're starting at a 0 point of, well, that's a problem, because no one asked the question, well, how come? Because I don't know why she has asthma. Not yet. I'm going to find out why. Or I'm going to find out what those underlying pro-inflammatory markers, cytokines or markers are that are causing it, or prostaglandins, or whatever, right? And I'm like, has anybody ever run any of these labs? Have they done an IgE food and environmental panel? Like, no one's ever talked about that. I'm going to give you a quick example. I know it's this 9-year-old girl that goes into the hospital routine 3 times a year with pneumonia, and it's really bad. So we did an IgE food and environmental panel on her, a respiratory panel. So IgE is an immunoglobulin that you'll see elevated with either, like parasitic infections or allergies. And it was been under 114, and it was like 3,000. And the one thing that was highest on there was dust mites, her bed, her pillow, and her mattress, and dog dander. So it's like,
Right.
So she's got a dog sleeping on her bed, and she's dust mites. So I was like, listen, I don't want you to have to spend a ton of money, right? Like you can buy a $500 like raincoat, or you can get a poncho. Like just go to Walmart, get a hypoallergenic mattress and covering for the mattress and pillow, get a decent air purifier. Put you on a couple meds because she's using a daily inhaled steroid. She's still using her rescue all the time. And it took quite a while. It took about a week for her to no longer need her rescue inhaler.
Wow. Quite a while? A whole week?
I am, because they had to do. At the end of the first month, she no longer needed her daily maintenance.
Wow.
The Canadian healthcare system, that would have been about 3-4 years probably.
Right? Even here. And that's why when people come to us, and when I say us, it's my father-in-law, I do the, like people come to me where no one knows what to do. And I'm like, well, let's figure it out. And then I just run everything by the licensed doctor, and then we create a plan. But, I've got decades of being curious. Like I hate unknowns. I despise unknowns.
Yep.
Like
to know the why.
I'm cool with like flying off a cliff and wondering how I'm going to manipulate my body through space and time before it happens. But I wouldn't encourage anyone else to do that. That's stupid.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, and I guess that's one of the things that I just found so incredible about your story is that you took the time with your patients to ask questions like that, to investigate things, even something like you said, vitamin D. Are you sleeping? What's causing it? I mean, that's huge.
Not are you sleeping?
Doctors don't do that.
It's how you sleep.
Right. Yes.
Right. It's are you sleeping? It's like, yeah, everybody. Rarely is somebody going to be like, no. Or they're be like, well, yeah. Because everyone sleeps.
Yeah, that's
right. Are you sleeping? That's a very different question. What time do you go to bed and what time do you fall asleep? Right, bedtime and sleep initiation are totally different. And if you're a parent, you always lie to the pediatrician about what time they go to bed and what time they fall asleep, because you don't want to get attacked as feeling a bad parent. Because we go to bed at 9. It's like, oh, what time do they fall asleep?
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. I'd be like, it's fine. There's no judgment. And I would tell them the story. It's like our daughter, it was midnight from like 9 months but she would sleep just so you're good.
Yeah.
You're fine. There's no thing you can tell me it's going to make it worse than our time. And they're like, no, well, you suck. And they tell me they're Jeez, you don't have to be a dick about it. Like,
no kidding.
Just trying to endear you into the situation where I'm not going to judge you. It'll be like, yeah, I know it's difficult, and then we can fix it. Because if we don't ask the real questions that people don't want to answer unless you ask it specifically, but you don't want to do that because how's everything going? Fine. It was like, oh, it's a 5-minute visit. When everything's fine. That's a 5-minute visit, and then you just move on.
Right.
When you say, how's everything going? And they're fine. It's like, oh, fine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
Tell me what fine means to you.
Yeah.
And then you see a complete shift in their countenance. You see a shift in their face, in their eyes. And I'll see, I was like, what was that? Right there. Because I see the way, and there's that thing. I was like, tell me, what was that thought that went through your head that you don't want to tell me? But you should, but you're ashamed. What was that? And all of a sudden it's a 45-minute visit. And my MA and my office manager are like, you're a dumpster fire of a practitioner. Like, you have other waiting. You get out in 5.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But I mean, kudos to you. I mean, yeah, that's incredible that just to care so much and
Well, people matter.
yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Exactly. And in your case too, like you said, some of these patients that you ended up treating, you hadn't ever met before, you didn't know them, but you still recognized even in your statements where like I never met this person, somebody's husband or wife or child calls you, but I mean this is the beautiful thing about Scott, and that if you read his book, you'll figure it out, is that he doesn't just think about a body in a bed. He thinks about this is somebody's brother. This is somebody's husband. This is somebody's friend. This is somebody's dad, and so, it became so important for you. And that really comes across to actually save people and get them home to their families or just surrounded by the people that loved them the most. And it's, I can't talk enough about it. I can't. And thank you to Julie again for recommending it and recommending that we get a hold of you. It's amazing.
Julie Gamble, thank you so much for putting us in touch with.
She's going to blow my phone up now. I remember the first time she reached out, it was like 3 years ago, I think. And she's like, and it was so long. Her thing was like, I can't, it would be a dissertation to respond. So we were on vacation. So I just like called her, I messaged her, and she answers like, hey, and she's like, what? You called? It's like, what? Well, you kind of baited me. What was I supposed to do that? And it's like, I either type in, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no thanks. No, just
or I have to contact her in some capacity, and the only feasible way to do it without having to find like a motherboard and be able to type, because it's like so I just called her. She's like, you called, and I was like, well, you kind of didn't give me a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Freaking rude what you said. Like it hurt my heart. So it's like for me to not respond. I mean, that would be ugh.
And that, brings me to the part in your book where I got to where you had your first vaccine injured patient, where you recognized it immediately as a vaccine injury. And so I can't even imagine, well, I actually can't imagine the stuff that you're seeing now, because Chris and I have a lot of friends that are injured. But, I told you in a text message the story. Chris and I were at Bikers Church in Ottawa a couple of years ago. We just gone out and done some fundraisers of some other truckers that were facing lawfare, some of the vaccine injured friends out there. So we went out and did some fundraisers for them. And at this meeting, it was sad to hear every story was terrible because it was unnecessary. But there was a lady that got her first shot. I can't remember which one it was, almost died. And the doctors and the nurses told her she still had to go and get her second shot, but they were just going to put her on a gurney in the ER in case she coded. Yes. This is what they were telling people in Canada. Like, you might die, but it's worth it.
That's a problem. It's like, well, sounds like that went really south for you. Mm-hmm. May happen again. So we'll just put you in a position so that we can try and bring you back to life if you have that same. It's like if somebody took amoxicillin or penicillin, right, and they got this horrible rash, they wear a bracelet for crying out loud. It's like it's in their chart. It's in red. It's like, do not take penicillin or penicillin-based antibiotics, right? They're not like, well, maybe that was a one-off.
Right.
It's just a no-go.
That is
exactly.
the stuff well, it's
like the pregnant women thing. It's like, we don't we advise pregnant women not to drink coffee and eat shellfish and sushi, but we're going to just stick this.
Well, what was the story? You had it was like 7 doctors, and it was like Ontario or Quebec. I think it may have been Quebec. You had 7 doctors that all died. I mean, young.
Yes.
Like 40, 50.
Running marathons and triathlons.
I think it was, and this is a while ago. It was like 2022 when I came across it. It's like, the first thing is like, what batch did they get? But or were they working on something? Were they oncologists? Were they working on something, for the betterment of humanity? And it's like, well, let's take those doctors out, which people would be like, that sounds crazy. But then you had those Brazilian doctors that are flying for a conference, and that plane went down, and these top Brazilian oncologists all died. It was like, first thing, it's what's awesome about Shelley. She's like, I wonder what they were working on. I'm like, I know, right?
Right, exactly.
Exactly what I thought. Like they just took out the ones that cared, because they're gonna like shed light on
Yes.
what we're not allowed to talk about.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
we're just gonna keep pushing it because that's what we have to do now. Just double down and keep pushing it the same way the government is pushing back on us right now. So we'll keep telling the
Yeah,
story.
that's right.
Um,
And we get to connect with people like you, and that's this is one of the good things I think that has come out of all this, and we talk about this on the show regularly, is the tribes that we've found and the friends that we've made and people that you actually know that you can trust. Like I know if I have a problem and I call Chris Barber, he's going to move heaven and earth to try and help me solve it, and vice versa. We've made friends across this whole country that are like that we would we would die for them, and they would die for us, and I mean, out of all the madness and the craziness, I mean, I think that's one of the blessings that's come out of it. And like you, Scott, I'm sure you know who's got your back and who doesn't.
Yep.
It's humbling to the people that God's put in my path, and it's true. I mean, it separates the wheat from the chaff, and you get to truly see. I mean, there's I'm not very good at lukewarm.
Yes.
And so when you're around people with that similar spirit, I mean, like sometimes, like, how's the sushi? I'm like, but the thing is, like, when it comes to substantive things, it's hard to take a middle ground. The middle ground is where truth goes to die.
Right. 100%. 100%.
I don't abide by that. It's
yeah.
So you're right. I mean, it's allowed me to have such, like when you're going through fire and then you end up having these people where you're like, they don't think you're insane. They're like, why aren't you being a little more robust? I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Not because you hate yourself. It's like, well, why don't you just know? It's like, well, fair point. Most people go, this is too much. You shouldn't. They're like, well, why aren't you just kicking a little extra ass today? And I was like, saying that. Let me get out of my tent and
just let me. My zipper's stuck. 1 second.
blow up my mat.
Exactly.
A little extra. I've been laying on the ground because I.
Scott, it's so funny that you mentioned that because somebody had just with all the stuff. Okay, well, there's news coming out about the Freedom Convoy, and apparently our federal government, which we already knew, compiled a list of every Canadian that they suspected would support the Freedom Convoy or was a participant, and they took this illegally compiled list and then illegally sent it out to the banks, to Chinese banks, to insurance companies. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people got this. And so anyways, of course, one very well-meaning person, of course, I put a post out about it, or reposted one, and they're like, Tamara, you got to know someone that can take on this class action and get a class action lawsuit started. And I'm like, well, thank you for your trust in me, but as far as lawsuits go, like, I'm all full up. I am full up. I mean, I have a criminal case. We're still going through that. We're getting sued for $300 million. We have a case against the government for having our bank accounts frozen, and I'm suing the Ottawa police, the Attorney General, the Crown Prosecutor that was on our case. So I mean, I'm full up. I'm all full up of lawsuits right now.
Well, listen, listeners can be cute. It's like, hey, why don't you take that on? It's like, oh. Hold on, I'm not saying that, but here's the beauty. Here's the beauty of that, and this is where what you guys have done and the impact that it's had on so many people are like, well, holy lick. If they can do that, if they have the ability and the courage and just the chutzpah to do that, well, why don't you just do this too? Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, oh, why don't you just do something that no one else will do that's almost impossible with everything that you have going on? So if you get to a point where somebody's throwing that out at you, you've had to do something that's so badass repeatedly, where it's like, well, this seems like a normal next thing that you should heap on to your thing, right? Because you wouldn't be, somebody wouldn't be like, hey, Bob, what are you doing today? I was like, gone fishing. He's like, well, why don't you, whilst you're doing that, why don't you like take on a system? He's like, no.
No.
Yeah, check your Facebook page and see if you know any lawyers.
No one would ever ask Bob that question because he's Bob.
Yeah.
So you
That's
guys
a
are
good
used,
point,
and
yeah.
you throw it out there, and you're like, maybe I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
That's true.
I had an issue and an argument with my insurance company over a truck that had an accident, and we were battling back and forth. And he said, "You know what? If you don't like my decision, get a lawyer. I'm pretty sure you're not going to do that."
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
I said, "Yeah,
No
kind of."
doubt.
Just gonna leave it at that. So,
I just wanted to send a very quick thank you for the $50 super chat from at Alberta First 2026. Weak men destroy great nations. You're very, very true, and thank you very much for your generous super chat. Awesome. Okay, well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Scott, but I definitely want to get you
Wait,
back.
did somebody put in there that I'm boring them?
No, nobody. I don't see any of that.
Okay.
Well, there's an F-bomb for you. So many gifts are coming. Scott, I fucking love you. From Heaven Within 81. There you go. No, it doesn't look. What is the name of Scott's book? I will gladly put that up, and I will ask Tasha to pop that in the chat one more time.
And again, I didn't name it. It's what I was called.
Yeah, The Most Dangerous Man in Washington.
I did name the second book, which is The Most Hated Man in Washington, because it was so beautifully orchestrated. The way it starts is these posts of people, and I'm just to tell you, it's like, Scott Miller, I blanking hate you. I want you to die. I blank your family. I want them to die. You all need to die. And when we find out where you're buried, we're gonna come and blank on your grave and blah. And I was
we're gonna come and kill you again.
I wrote back. I was like, "Oh, you have hobbies."
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Like,
we're gonna kill you so bad. You're gonna wish we didn't kill you so bad.
Like,
so what I do when I see the hateful comments like that is I always start it off with "Aw, muffin."
Yeah, muffin. Hi, Christine. Great conversation tonight.
I usually didn't respond to it, but this one was so. I was so like, it wasn't the worst. There was way worse, but I was like, oh, like. It's like he's getting his family involved with his. It's like we're going to. I didn't know who we is, but apparently, more than him.
That's right.
And so I was like, the family that shits together stays together. Apparently, like have at it.
Come on. Yeah. Oh my God. Hilarious. Oh wow.
Well, what a good conversation. I got some stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
I've got to repair a semi yet tonight, so I can leave in about 8 hours for the road trip. So Scott, it's been an honor having you on tonight and hearing your story.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, look Scott up.
We're gonna get you back, and again, I feel like we're family, so I would like to invite you to my home for Christmas if you guys want to come up to Canada. Or at least I'm gonna put you on my Christmas card list. Thank you for an absolutely amazing conversation, Scott. It has been an honor to get to know you, and we're definitely going to get you back. Please keep us all posted on how things are progressing for you, and we'll get you back on. We didn't even hardly touch on anything tonight. There's so much we didn't even talk about.
There's a narrow window of,
That's right.
I mean, we talked about a couple fun things, but some important things. But I think this is the thing, right? There's the stories, and then there's what the stories mean. And what it means to the people that are listening. And for people that are listening, where it's I'm one person, what can I do? And I wrote that. I was like, I wasn't one person. I was one person that God spit. I'm not going to tell the story, but you read it where I'm like, I wanted out. I'm like, nope. And God was like, nope. And it was so overt. It was so plain that I was angry. I was ticked because I'm like, oh,
yeah.
All right. I guess I'm going to somehow burn it down. And
fine. If you want me to save the world, I guess.
And so it's like, what? And so, it's like he imposed that. I asked. I shouldn't have asked, but I chose to pray about it and ask. Shame on me for that.
Yeah.
He told me, and I was like,
literally the best story is his wife. She's like, Scott, you got to stop talking about this. You're going to get in trouble. You got to do that. Can I pray for you? So then she prays. She prays over him, and they're asking for whatever peace and quiet and family time, and they're done praying, and his phone rings 3 times immediately. And anyone that has a cell phone now knows, for the first call, mute, second call, third call, you're like, I got to take this. Anyway, so yeah, I mean,
And she was like, I guess you gotta.
okay.
Yeah. She asked God for one thing, and he put me away from them for another.
Just wasn't his plan.
Wasn't
Before I let you go, I just want to acknowledge one thing, and I was talking about this last night. Because of your story, like it struck me so bad. It made me think of my story, Chris's story, and so many other people that end up sort of in situations like ours. And I think, I was always raised to believe that God will never give you more than you can handle. And I know some days it's just so overwhelming, but you had a fairly traumatic past. And I think, a lot of people that have suffered through personal trauma, sort of, I don't know if it makes them more resilient or if it just equips us better. Because we've all had trauma. Everybody has a history. Everybody has a past. Bad things happen. But, so like in your case, Scott, reading about your dad, about your accidents. I mean, it's a miracle even that you're alive. But I feel like I think that just should be acknowledged, because I think a lot of people that end up in situations like yours have already had to overcome so much. But I think when you look back on that, or at least when I do, I mean, it prepared me. Every bad choice that I've made, every bad experience that I've had was actually preparing me to be strong enough to go through what we're going through now. And I truly believe, again, that God has your back, and I believe that's the case with you too.
I agree, and I'm trying. I'm gonna get in trouble. There's the phrase I was. Something through. I was like going through the fire, and I've gone through fire in ways. I mean, just telling the story of like when I burned, like I just cooked to the ground.
Yes.
Like I physically burned into the ground, and I had no control over it, and I just had to figure out how to mentally suck up the. I'm like
get on top of it.
There was no thing like I thought that my body being shattered was the bad thing. I was like, oh, this sucks. But then it was like my skin had been ripped off and I'm physically burning into the asphalt. Yeah. And it was like, how do I manage this? I had to figure out a way, because and I kept praying. It's like, shouldn't I go into shock? Like that would be the reasonable thing to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Come on, body.
This whole thing for the body to go into shock, but it was like, no. And then Petey's there. It's like, well, let's figure out, like, when I said, how do I look? And he's like, better than most days. And it was the funniest thing at that moment, where my body was in just this place of, like, I would call it a solid 9.5 out of 10 pain. Like I was in agony that I don't know what 10 out of 10 pain is, because it would think that your mind would shut off. Mine didn't. It just had to absorb it. And then Petey makes me laugh. It's like, oh, Petey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Laughter is going to be my best medicine, because I was hit by a short bus, so I can roll with that info, right?
Yeah,
I can totally get inappropriate. I somehow got taken out by a short bus.
That's true.
I'm telling these jokes.
It's all in here. It's all in here, you guys.
The paramedics are laughing so hard they're shaking as they're getting me on the gurney and putting me. So it's like, oh. Anyway, so the thing is, you're hewn. Is it hewn through the fire? Whatever. But it's like,
right.
or forged through it. And just as what you brought up, it's true. And because you either get to this point or you're so derailed that you unfortunately aren't in service to humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for everything that you've done, and everything that you continue to do. Please give our love to your family, even though we don't know them, or they don't know us, but I feel like we know them. I would love to get you back on the show and just keep us updated. And thanks for everything, and we're thinking about you up here.
Well, good. You guys, I appreciate you guys are amazing.
Well, thank you.
I'm just a stubborn old boot. Chris is amazing. I'm just a stubborn old bat.
Middle age.
And I can't abide a bully. So there you go.
Yep.
Well, have a good day.
All right. Okay.
All right.
We're going to let Scott go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Late, so.
All right.
All right.
All right,
We'll let Scott go and wrap up. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Oh my God, that was just absolutely amazing. What a story, Chris. Like literally, you got to get an audiobook or something. You got to check this
I'll
out.
do that. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Hopefully I have a decent weekend trucking here and I can spend some time. I've got one audiobook that I need to finish and it's just been kind of crazy. So, but I've got that
Yeah.
amazing stories and we need more of those. So Julie Gamble, thank you
Yeah.
very much for putting us on to Scott.
Yes.
And anybody else there has
Yeah.
some suggestions for other people out there that need to get these stories out. It's a community that we're building right now, and the community's already been built. We're just kind of adding to it, and we're seeing our way through it. So we
That's
appreciate
right.
everybody showing up.
If you have any recommendations for guests or you want to send us some mail, send us a note, comments, suggestions, some hate mail, please feel free to do so at 18house.arrest@gmail.com. We do get some hate mail, and it's actually quite funny. It's usually just from one person. You can find us. You can find us on X at 18house. You can find us on Rumble at housearrest18. You can find us on Substack at housearrest18, and of course, don't forget your Resistance Coffee. If you head on over to resistancecoffee.ca, I think Tash will have to put that up. Yeah, resistancecoffee.com. And use promo code HouseArrest10. You are going to get a discount on your coffee. Trust me, you're definitely going to want to try some Mischief Makers, you guys.
It's good stuff.
It's for the freedom-loving Mischief Makers out there. So have a great week, everyone. We will see you next week. Jim McMurtry is going to join us on next Thursday on House Arrest, and we're going to talk about residential schools. So there goes our monetization for next week, too. I think we're just going to do this for free.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, everyone. Chris, you have a great week, and we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining us on House Arrest, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep your eye on the prize, guys.
Special thanks to Tasha, our amazing producer. So Tasha, the amazing. Have a good night, everyone.
We don't have her next week. Yeah, she's going to be gone next week to Tirana. She's off to Tirana, but I'm sure we're going to try and muddle through. So have a great week, everyone. See you next week.
See you guys.